As a registered taxpayer, the state is looking for a return for each period in which you have a filing responsibility. So regardless if you make sales or not, or if all your sales are, for wholesale or resale, right, to other distributors, you still are required to report those sales or report nil on the return and file a return. There are a handful of states that actually have a late file penalty as well. So if you don't file a return, even if it's all zero sales or all exempt sales or all sales for resale type of a thing, if you don't file that return, then the state imposes a penalty. The state of Texas, for example, is a $51 penalty. Why 51? I don't know. Connecticut, Florida, there are a number of states that have these non-filing penalties. So you don't want to impose that, or you don't want that to be imposed on you as a business. So you want to definitely make certain that returns are filed, even if they're all exempt or $0 sale.
Hey guys, on today's episode of the Saltcast, I asked Paul Johnson, our COO, a couple of different questions. The first one being, when you have zero sales and zero tax to give to a state where you are registered to collect sales tax, what do you do? Is it due? The second question I asked him is, what do we do with notices? If you are in charge of the sales tax compliance for your business, you know that you constantly get notices. Here is how we deal with those. Today I thought that we would talk about two things, because I think both topics can be covered pretty quick.
Did you see that thumbs up?
Yeah. Why'd you get a thumbs up?
I don't know. Did I do something? Look at that, bro. Thumbs up. Can I get a raised hand or anything? Oh, you don't get thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. 1 thumb up.
What's happening right
I don't know. All I did was scratch my back and I got a thumbs up. That was weird.
Anyway, we must be getting, a thumbs up from the AI god saying, the topic I'm about to introduce is the right one.
Good.
Two things, because I think both topics can be done pretty quickly, but one of them being, what do you do if you've had zero sales? Do you still file a return? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That being the first one. Second one is notice management, right? What do I do if I get a notice about my return not being filed on time and I've got this estimated tax due? It seems ominous. What do I do? Because it is. Because in my brief time I did returns, getting notices, sometimes we get the notices.
Right.
But sometimes they come from the client, and they'll post a picture and email. It's like, hey, I just got this notice, and the state wants $25,000. How is that possible? What do I do?
Yeah.
So there's a panic.
Yeah.
But we're not panicking because
right.
we know how to deal with this.
That's one of the things we talk to our clients about, specifically new clients that we're bringing on or that we're starting to do returns for. We let them know that even though we may do our job, even if we did do our job 100% correct, and we didn't make any errors, which you're going to make errors, you're going to make mistakes, we're human. That's part of that aspect. But regardless of how great of a job you do, and even the automated providers who, file the returns automatically through their automated system are still getting notices, because what happens is the state either A, doesn't receive the return, or they don't post the return, or there's just a timing delay. The return was due on the 20th, and for whatever reason it posted on the 21st. Or maybe you did file your return in, you had to mail the return in, and it was postmarked on time. But the state has some automated solution in place that if something is not posted by this date, then they automatically send you out a notice. So notices are a natural part of the return filing process as a registered taxpayer, and they have to be addressed. They have to be fixed. So even if you do your job 100% correct, whether you outsource it, you do it internally, you're going to be contacted by the state because they're not doing their job correct, quite frankly. And so you have to work with them to ensure that the return is posted properly. You have to work with them to ensure that the payment is posted properly, to the right account, to the right period. I can't tell you how many notices that I've resolved where the state posted my payment to somebody else's account. And so I had to send them proof of payment, had to send the confirmation number, and then they had to go find it and then reallocate it to my account or to the right client account. Um, the worst thing that you could do is not address the notice and just ignore it. Oh, this is just an assessment. We clearly filed a return and we made payment, and you just ignore it because the state is looking for the return. They're looking for a payment. They're looking for something, and they send you a notice about it. And so you oftentimes simply have to contact the state to follow up on it. Now, there are some notices that you receive when you contact the state. Oh, yeah, we do have that return. We do have that payment. You can disregard the notice. That's a common response from the state because they don't have a way to send out a corrected notice. And so it is a common response by the state of, no, we did get that. It's just a timing error or a timing difference. The return posted here and the notice got sent out here. They crossed in the mail type of a thing. So you definitely don't want to ignore the notice. You definitely want to make certain that you have your ducks in a row and the state has their ducks in a row. So contacting the state, working with the state is a key part of return filing.
Yeah, because I remember what usually was for us is, it's like, hey, we don't have your return because it didn't,
right,
for some reason, like it posted late, or, the state or the jurisdiction, they might have were going through it by hand, because you had to mail it in. And then they're like, hey, notice gets sent out. So then once the notice comes in, you attach a letter saying it was posted correctly. Here's the confirmation date that it was mailed out on time.
Right.
Here's the check stub, copy of the check stub, the payment, check number, everything. And then I could copy the return.
Yeah.
And that usually resolved it.
Right.
But yeah, if you ignore that.
I think probably over 90%, I would say, of our returns are filed electronically now, all through the state website or the local website, and payments are made electronically. And so we do see a decreased number of those notices, but you still get them. For whatever reason, it's a real mystery. It's frustrating. It's all get out too, because the state just, has a flaw in their system. I remember during COVID a few years ago, 2020, a lot of the employees were working from home that worked for the state, and they just didn't have the wherewithal to get the mail on time. And so there was an increase in notices then, just because of processes. But I think that was a real benefit that came out of it, was the states actually came to grips with this kind of remote work and this ability to work things out online. Their online systems improved and processes improved because they had to, which I think is great. But to dive into your other question about zero sales, as a registered taxpayer, the state is looking for a return for each period in which you have a filing responsibility. So regardless if you make sales or not, or if all your sales are for wholesale or resale, right, to other distributors, you still are required to report those sales or report nil on the return and file a return. There are a late file penalty as well. So if
Oh,
you don't file a return, even if it's all zero sales or all exempt sales or all sales for resale type of a thing, if you don't file that return, then the state imposes a penalty. The state of Texas, for example, is a $51 penalty. Why
jeez.
51? I don't know. Connecticut, Florida. I mean, there are a number of states that have these non-filing penalties. So you don't want to impose that, or you don't want that to be imposed on you as a business. So you want to definitely make certain that returns are filed, even if they're all exempt or
Yeah.
$0 sales.
Yeah. A few episodes ago, Jason and I covered trailing nexus, to where the business was kind of shut down, and then they had to keep filing returns for sometimes up to a year after,
Yeah.
despite not having any sales, or there's going to be no possibility of future sales. But what if for 6 months you have filed a no sales return? It's like, to you, at what point do you want to deregister potentially?
I think probably the discussion around that really just comes from an administrative perspective where if you don't have Nexus or your sales or just have been zero, you don't have customers that are in the state, at what point do we deregister? Well, probably the most frustrating thing, one of the frustrating things I should say rather, is having to close the account and then go back in and re-register or reopen the account. Just from an administrative perspective, it can be quite cumbersome and annoying to have to do that. And so generally my advice, and when we chat with our clients, is on a calendar year, we take a look at, okay, what were the sales? What were the returns that were filed? How does that look? What any changes that we ought to make? Because maybe it's not even the fact that you didn't have any sales. Maybe just the sales that you're reporting are all exempt, or a majority of them are exempt, and the tax that you pay to the state is immaterial. And so from that perspective, you have businesses who are trying to, save money by deregistering or closing their account just to avoid that filing responsibility. I know there are a few states as well that, if you are filing $0 returns for a year or more, then they'll simply just close the account for you. Hey, you haven't reported any tax responsibility, so we just went ahead and closed your account. Because the state, if you think about it as well, the state doesn't necessarily want to process $0 returns. They're more interested in obtaining or getting tax. And so they don't want to process more returns that they don't have to. But I
Yeah.
would say probably each calendar year you ought to consider and review your filing footprint, what you're reporting, what you're not reporting, and what makes most sense.
Are there any states that you can register as, but you're registered in, but you only remit tax if you only file a return if you have tax due? Or is there
There
always a
are
filing frequency?
No, there are some that issue an occasional filing status, meaning you just file once you have tax to remit. The local jurisdictions are really good at this because, you may have a sell into Snowmass Village, Colorado in 1 month, and you may not have another sell in Snowmass Village, Colorado for,
Right.
another 6, 8 months, another year. And so, yeah, you could report that occasionally. Most of the states, however, generally just issue a annual or quarterly or semi-annual filing
Yeah.
status is their way of doing that. But there are a few states, I want to say Utah, maybe New Jersey. No, not New Jersey. There are a few states out there that do have an occasional status.
It seems like that would be nice.
Yeah.
it's kind of a nice way to do it. It's like
Yeah.
some months you might have 20 returns to file. Others might just have 12,
Right.
depending upon your sales.
Right.
What was my other question? But with $0 returns, typically you're just going to file based upon your filing frequency, and you don't want to miss it. But I also know some states are more lenient. It's like, hey, you didn't file your tax return. Oh, yeah, sorry, it was $0. Okay, there's not much. There's no penalty. Obviously, there's no interest.
Yeah.
There's no tax due.
Yeah.
Awesome. There was another question that came to mind. Escaped me. But I think the antithesis, the theme here is do not ignore. That's like the worst thing you could do,
Yeah.
because when you have tax due, that's one thing. It's not coming out of your pocket.
Right.
But if you don't file or you don't follow up with the state, there could be late fees and other penalties that could be stacked upon. All of a sudden, in a moment where you don't owe anything, you now owe $200 because you decided to ignore it for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And that adds up pretty quick.
Yep.
And it takes a long time to try to fight that. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time to have to fight something like that. So don't ignore. Just follow up. Just call them up. Or you have someone like Peischner Johnson that handles all your notices. I can tell you that the automated software solutions don't do it. So you'll be left, it's not a set it and forget it system, because you're still, no matter what you do, like Paul said, you're going to get notices. That's part of being compliant. It's part of being, a retailer, someone who sells a product or service, and you remit sales tax returns to multiple states. It's just part of it. So something you have to be aware of. So don't think that if you have your automated software solution that it's going to get done, even if you file on time. I don't think, Paul, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've never filed returns late. It's never happened yet. Constant flow of notices. Well, I don't think we can spend any more than 16 minutes on these two topics. I think we've covered them thoroughly. And so if you guys got any questions about what you should do, you've gotten some crazy notice. I mean, that'd be kind of fun if someone sends us the craziest notice they've ever gotten in their life, and see if they can stump us, see if we've ever dealt with it before.
Yeah.
So do that.
That would be cool.
Send us your craziest stories of notices, the weirdest notices you've ever gotten, and we'll see if we have dealt with it before. All right. Well, thanks, Paul. Maybe give us a last thumbs up. Maybe
my thumbs up works. Do yours thumb up? Oh no, my thumbs up doesn't work. Oh, there it goes.
Whatever. But thanks again, Paul. We'll talk to you another one, man.
See ya.